Hey y'all, this is Monarch Mama, and I have a special treat for you today. I have my husband with me today, and he is
I am the hunter.
the hunter. So I have been watching some of the Homeschool Dad tags on other people's channels, and I thought it was really fun, but I wanted to do kind of my own twist on it. So this is the seasoned Homeschool Dad interview.
The champion.
So I have a few questions for the hunter. The first question is, oh wait, let me tell you something about ourselves. We have 4 kids and we have been homeschooling for about 15 years. Our oldest is now in college. She's a sophomore in college right now. And then we have 1 graduating this year. And then we have 2 that are still at home being homeschooled. They're 8th grade and 10th grade. So we have several years of homeschooling under our belt. Anyway, so our first question for the hunter is homeschooling what you thought it would be?
It is not what I expected. I wasn't really sure what to expect exactly. We started out originally thinking we can do preschool with this one child that we have and this little baby. It shouldn't be that big a deal. And then kindergarten time came around and we thought, well, kindergarten, we can do kindergarten. We don't need to, we're colors and numbers and letters. I mean, how big? And of course, by then she was reading and starting to read 2nd and 3rd grade type stuff. And 1st grade came around and we thought, let's do this. Let's do this for as long as we can. And
take it a year at a time.
Take it a year at a time, and along the way, we just kind of felt like this is what the Lord has called us to do with our kids, that He's called to do with us, with our children. And so, not for everybody, but we felt like it was for us. And so, it just kind of morphed into something that I was just really. It was more than I expected, but I'm pleased with what we've done.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Has your opinion of homeschooling changed over time?
My original feelings about homeschooling were negative. I wasn't really confident at all about homeschooling. My mom was a teacher. Public school was what I grew up doing, and I wasn't really sure if this was really going to be something that we needed to do all the way through. And my first impression of a homeschool kid that I knew was very negative. And it was the very first day of youth camp, and I was a sponsor or the counselor for this group, and we had to do all these activities during the camp. And we had this one boy in our group. I had a group of sophomores, and he had his Star Trek shirt, and he was a Trekkie. And I thought, oh great, this guy, okay, he's a homeschooler and he's a Trekkie. This is a totally weird person here. And I had some athletes in the group, and just they kind of made fun of him. And I thought, this is going to be a long week for this kid. How in the world am I going to incorporate him? But by the 3rd day, he was leading everybody. He was leading them spiritually. He was the team leader in all the things that we were doing. He was outstanding. And so my attitude towards homeschooling at that point began to change quite a bit because of that one young man. And I was very impressed with him. He actually was one of the kids that was brought before the whole camp at the end of camp as one of the guys, that people would say, oh, this is someone who really helped me this week, and he was one of the ones that was lifted up. And so it was a pretty impressive thing, and that was kind of what began me thinking differently about homeschooling.
Okay. Next question. What are some of your favorite memories of homeschooling?
Favorite memories?
Yeah.
That would be
homeschool activities.
I liked the field trips. The field trips were great, and one of the things that I felt like I needed to do along the way was making the most of every opportunity that I could. I wasn't always able to be around all the time, certainly not able to be a teacher very often at all. And so looking for opportunities to teach whenever those came. So we would walk to church once a week, and I would try to find things that we could study of nature. We would look, sometimes at night, we would look for constellations. Sometimes when we walked to church, if we went for a walk after I came home from work or whatever, we'd look for different kinds of kind of learning things that we could do. We'd watch the ants, we'd watch the bees one time pollinating flowers, and I remember one time, for several weeks in a row, the dewberry vines were beginning to blossom, and every few days we would walk by there and we would look at how it had progressed. So they got to see how it started without a flower, and then the flower became a flower, and then the berry began to form, and then it was a red berry, and then it was black, and we could eat them. And it took several weeks for all of that, so it was kind of cool to do that. And I guess one of my fondest memories, definitely one of the most memorable, was I couldn't wait for the day that I could take my son hunting and teach him some biology as we gutted a deer. And that was the coolest thing. I know it's gross and disgusting for you ladies out there, but I thought it was pretty cool. My son didn't throw up. He was actually into it, and he's helped me gut him a couple of times. So I haven't been able to get him enthused about hunting, unfortunately, but he definitely helped with the butchering and all of that stuff. And that was another cool thing that we learned, was how to butcher the animal and take care of it and everything else. So, and every time we've needed to do car stuff, I've taken the boys out with me and taught them, okay, here's how you plug a tire, here's how we change the oil, here's another thing. And one time we had given our older son a robot kit to make a robot car, and he had become pretty good at using the soldering iron to make all the little things. And the air conditioner went out in the rear of our van.
Right.
Well, the front worked fine. It was cool, but the rear, it was blowing, but it wasn't cold. And I looked and looked. I didn't know anything about how to fix this, so the internet is awesome. So I'm searching, trying to find it, and I finally, some blessed person posted the exact same problem we had with photographs. And so we were able to take the panel out for the air conditioner, and sure enough, it was exactly the same as what was on there, and there was this little soldered piece that just needed to be resoldered. And so I got my young son, I said, you know what, you're better with a soldering iron than I am. You fix this for me. And so he did. He resoldered it, and we put it back in, and it blew cold, and it was just fine. And I said, man, you saved us about $400. It was like the coolest thing.
11 years old.
Yeah, it was a really, really neat thing.
Like 11 or 12 years old.
Take every opportunity to teach them anything that you can all the time.
Just whatever you know.
Really, right.
Yeah, anything that you know. Yeah. Okay, next question. Have you ever substituted for mom, or do you teach them some subjects?
No.
No way.
If there's substitution, there's not very much. I've helped a little bit with some grammar here and there, and before the math got over my head, I helped with a little bit here and there, but I don't. Me teaching a class on my off day didn't last very long.
No. No, but you have taught them other subjects like driver's ed.
I'm the driver's ed teacher, and only two more are terrorized to be terrorized with that. So, and I'm mellowing out a little bit. I think I might be able to do this without screaming this next time. So
we'll see.
We'll find out. The other two didn't die though, and they're good, safe drivers, no tickets or wrecks yet.
Right.
So.
Well, and you also teach like life skills, like what you were talking about, plugging the tire. You teach the life.
Very important to know how to gut a deer. Very important.
And our boys are involved in scouts, and he's the chaplain for the scout group. So
right.
he helps by teaching.
Yeah. We do a leadership skill every night that we meet. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can kind of consider that part of homeschooling, because they're learning more about varied topics through scouts. So, all right. Next question: what about after high school? Do they go to college or do they not go to college? And how do you feel about that?
Well, so far our two oldest ones seem to want to go to college, and so I think that that's good for them. I don't know that everybody needs to go to college. We haven't gotten our two youngest ones old enough to know whether they can become independent without needing college or not. But I have no problem at all whatsoever. We've had them for 18 years, 19 years. If we can't pour into them in 18, 19 years the values that they need to have, 2 or 3 more years in our house is not going to make a difference. And so all along the way, we have tried to teach them the values that they need to have. We've tried to teach them to become independent in reading the Bible for themselves and believing the things that they believe, not because we believe them, but because they have become to believe them. So I've taught them a considerable. We've talked a number of times about evolution. I've wanted them to understand what that theory is. I don't want them to have only creation and have no concept of what the other view is, because how can they make a decision if they don't know? Yeah. And so it's unfair to them to not question things, and so
because they will eventually.
Because they will, and if there's no opportunity for them to learn and explore and ask the hard questions along the way.
You do ask those questions while they're still here. While we still have a voice.
So while they were in college here, encouraged to take philosophy here, so that we can have those conversations about why does suffering happen when there's a good God and those kinds of things. And so it's a good thing to have those good. That's what the dinner table's for. You have great discussions about life and go ahead and answer those hard questions when you've got the opportunity. And so when it's time for them to get that higher education, they're going to get some things that are very liberal compared to what you've been giving them. But it won't matter, because they've already learned how to make choices, how to have an open mind to all things, and
compare it to the truth.
And compare it to truth.
Yeah.
And that's been the main thing, is teaching them how to think, teaching them how to make good choices based on truth, and having a full open mind. And there's been a number of times when they've challenged myself for being too narrow, and so it's been a there's nothing more embarrassing. I'll tell you this story, and this is kind of off topic, but we're driving home in the car, or I got angry about something. Somebody had tried to break in the church, and I was angry because this had happened a number of times before, and it was. For some reason, I needed to fix lunch that day, so naturally we went out to eat. And so we went to the burger place, and along the way we were going, and I was still mad. It had been a few hours earlier in the morning, and I was still angry. I was still spouting off about it, talking about how, and I was like, guys, I'm sorry, I'm just really angry. And my younger son, he's 14 years old, and he says, Dad, you know how sometimes when I get really mad and you tell me that I should pray about that and ask God to help me with the anger? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, maybe you should do that. And I was like, yeah, you're right, son. And that was, I was so proud of him. I was so proud of him because he spoke up to his dad, because he knew that he could do that respectfully, and told me, Dad, the values that we're supposed to have based on the Word, you're not doing them, and you're the preacher, and so he was right, and I had to admit it. And I've been very proud that I could share that story because of his stand on the Word. I was very proud of that. Anyway.
Good. Okay, last question.
Yeah. Get the preacher to stop talking. That's a good one.
How has homeschooling affected family life? Do you feel like it has enhanced family life, or has been a burden to family life, or how do you feel like it has affected our group as a family?
I think it's helped our family tremendously to be tight with each other. There's not any question that we're close as a family. We're closer than a lot of families that we know. In fact, there's some homeschooling families that are not as close as we are. But there's some families that have been in public school that have really tight families, but I think for us, with the weird schedules that I have in ministry and everything, this was something that we really felt like we were called to do with our kids, based on Deuteronomy 6. You know, the father's supposed to be doing all this. And so we, for us, is important, and I don't think that we would have had the time to do a number of the things that we did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so many things we could do. I get to come home for lunch. There's a lot of dads that can't do that. And I get to come home for lunch, and we would read a book around the table after we got through eating, and then I could go back to the office. It's been a real blessing giving us opportunity to pour into them.
We've had more time to spend together, in our the way that your schedule is. It allows us to be more flexible, to bend to his schedule. And of course, now that we have kids in college, it's not that way. It's kind of changed the last year or so.
And when I've gone out of town, you know, they can, hey, we're going to take a couple of days off of school, or we can take school with us.
Right.
We can go vacation whenever we want. So.
Yeah. And that's changed a little bit too the last few years, just simply because they're involved in a more structured school now, because they're going to college and they're involved in some other activities at the high school level. But it was such a blessing to be able to do that when they were younger, because during their formative years we were able to really have a voice and spend time with them and bond together as a family during those times.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That was an interview with the seasoned homeschool dad, the Hunter. So if you have any questions for him, comment down below and let me know if you have some questions for him, and maybe we can entice him to come back and do another interview with us. So,
adios.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.